Welcome to Vision Plus, a program featuring a positive outlook, dealing with everyday situations of marriage, children, and business. Believing Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Teacher, author, speaker, delighting audiences from New York to Sacramento with a heart and message for the people today. Bonnie would like to remind you of the 800 number on the screen. Please feel free to call at any time throughout the broadcast and share your concerns. Leave your prayer request and someone will pray with you. And now, teacher, author, and speaker.
The state of Arizona in the House and in the Senate. She was also the Secretary of State. What is most interesting to me about her is that she's a prior supervisor of Maricopa County and inherited, like many of us good Republicans, she inherited a financial mess. And she did such an outstanding job of managing their budget and managing the mess that Governing Magazine proclaimed it as one of two of the most well-managed in the entire country, which is I don't think Birmingham fits in that bill anymore. I don't think Jefferson County made that list. But Governor Brewer has fought illegal, keyword illegal immigration in this country. And you know, everybody's giving Alabama a lot of credit right now and a lot of praise, and even her assistant and all of her humility and kindness put that she was joining Alabama in the fight. She's not joining Alabama. This lady led this fight for this nation. Governor Jan Brewer fought illegal immigration before fighting illegal immigration was cool. But she's not a one-issue person. She's done a lot of other things. For instance, she brought 4,700 jobs, solar-related jobs, to her state in the past year. Wouldn't we like to have 4,700 jobs right now? She serves without fear and with courage. She loves God and country. She's tough and tenacious, yet she's kind and very gracious. There's only one thing that I've found to be wrong with Jan Brewer. She's not running for president.
Not this time.
I am so excited I can't stand it. In 4 days, her book comes out, Scorpions for Breakfast. It is right now, you can purchase it. I checked it out today, $16.95 pre-sale on Amazon.com. I encourage every one of you to go back to your rooms tonight, get the laptops out and order the book. But in 4 days, that book will be released, and she's probably far too humble to tell you why it's named that. But Chuck Norris said once of her on television, somebody was talking about Governor Jan Brewer, he said, that lady is so tough, she eats scorpions for breakfast. So there you go. But it's going to be a great book. I'd like for you to join me in welcoming a conservative's conservative, a lady, a governor, and I think one of the brightest and shining, most accomplished, outstanding Republicans in our entire nation, Governor Jan Brewer.
Thank you. Oh, good evening, Republican women of Alabama. I think that you are probably one of the most fantastic group of women that I've been around in a long time. And I want to thank Beth for that very, very kind introduction. It's a bit overwhelming. I do so much appreciate it, but I don't know if I can live up to all of that, Beth. You set the bar pretty high there for me. Let me begin first and foremost by saying how honored, and I mean that so sincerely, to be with all of you tonight. You have all been just such a wonderful host during the day here today, and I just want to really thank each and every one of you for that good, I guess it's Southern hospitality. I truly feel being here tonight that you are really a safe port amongst a storm. You know, we don't get those kinds of receptions a lot of places we go, so it's really great being here with all of you. And I'm so very impressed with the many women that I met today and last evening at this conference. What can you say? You're just all fabulous. There's not another word. You're just fabulous. It's clear, really, to me, that women are making great strides today in business and certainly in the political world. Indeed, women all over are running for political office in record numbers. And I think it's important that we not take this kind of woman power for granted, either at the federal, state, or local level. For those women getting elected to office are truly translating their successes into victories for all women. And women will continue to make such positive strides by serving as role models for the younger generation. Did you know that 2/3 of women governors are Republicans? You know, and we know that Republican women rock, and now they rule. As women, and certainly as Republican women, we have a responsibility, I believe, to mentor one another. It's a responsibility that we inherited, and one that we should pass to those who come after us. You certainly have been doing a great job of that, I know, right here in Alabama, where you have made history, literally. It was great to see last November that Alabama Republicans won every single statewide race on the ballot, capturing the Alabama legislature. That's saying a lot, doesn't it, after 136 years of Democrat rule. And Republican women candidates were a vital part of that victory. And they couldn't do it without all of us, the grassroots women who get out there and get the job done, and that means all of you. I want to start, if I can this evening, by telling you that the most important mentor in my life was my mother, Edna Drinkwine. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? And my maiden name was Drinkwine, and now I'm a brewer, you know? I kind of have to rhyme with a brewer. There's got to be something into all of that. You see, I know what it's like to be a single mom, struggling to make ends meet while caring for your family. I saw my mother do it after my father died when I was 11 years old, and she'd never, ever worked outside of the home, but my mother knew that she had to support her family, and that would be my brother and myself. And with her very meager savings, she bought a small dress store. And I worked side by side with her until the time that she sold it when I was about 20 years old. And that shop that she bought and that shop that I worked in was really, truly a classroom for me, where I learned the importance of hard work, responsibility, honesty, integrity, and yes, courage, from my mother's example. I think about my mother every day, especially since I was challenged with the opportunity to become governor of Arizona. And I say challenged because Governor Janet Napolitano left Arizona for the Obama administration in early 2009 and left her successor, that would be me, the worst state budget deficit in the nation. Now, how's that for a parting gift? I always tell everybody it's like arriving at a party when it's all over and being handed the bill by the waiter. Well, I'll tell you something. I am my mother's daughter, and I was up to this challenge. I'm a problem solver, and I've had to make a lot of painful decisions, some that still weigh heavy on my heart. In Arizona, expenditures are down almost 20%. The number of state employees is down almost 15%. and state employees, including me, took a 5% pay cut during the crisis. But you know what? Arizona now has a balanced budget and a positive cash balance for the first time in years. And I can tell you, it feels darn good. Now, I will tell you, unfortunately, that fixing what affects and afflicts our great nation will not be so easy. However, if there's one thing I've learned from my mother and in my years of public service, is that life is about choices. It's about doing the right thing, almost always means doing the hard thing. It's choosing what's tough over what's tempting. It's choosing truthful over the false. And it's choosing government that is necessary over government that is merely desired. Speaking about choices voters had before the 1984 election, President Ronald Reagan said, and I quote, and this is important, the choices, for today it is important, the choices this year are not just between two different personalities or between two political parties. They are between two different visions of the future, two fundamentally different ways of governing. Their government of pessimism, fear, and limits, and ours of hope, confidence, and growth. End of quote. It seems to me that the political playing field which we have today has changed very, very little since 1984. Another choice that the voters will have in the upcoming election will be about holding President Obama accountable for all his broken promises. Let me hear from what you all have to say, a little pop quiz, if you will. Who remembers that President Obama promised in 2009 he'd cut the federal budget deficit in half? The fact is, he has accumulated more debt than any president, and in a shorter period of time. Who remembers that the Obama administration promised in 2009 it would keep unemployment below 8% if the stimulus package passed? The fact is, America lost 2.5 million jobs since Obama's stimulus plan, and unemployment is still over 9%. Who remembers President Obama's housing plan, announced in Arizona, by the way, that would stem the spread of foreclosures and falling home values for all Americans? In fact, housing prices have dropped by more than they did during the Great Depression. Even with Obamacare, the promises made were not followed up on. Remember how much political capital the president and Nancy Pelosi spent promising everyone that this new health care bill was not a tax? But not long ago, the lawyers trying to preserve Obamacare made the case by telling the court it is constitutional in part because it is a tax, even more egregious. In my home state of Arizona, who remembers that the Obama administration proclaimed the border was more secure than ever? In fact, our own military leaders said recently, we lack a comprehensive border security plan. And what does President Obama do? He sues the state of Arizona and me for doing his job. And it is this kind of ridiculous policy of saying one thing and then doing quite another that I do touch on my book that was very nicely promoted tonight. I thank you, Beth. scorpions for breakfast. And I hope you do have the opportunity to pick it up and that you're able to read it, because the fact of the matter is that we know that our story in Arizona has not been told fairly. It has been written by the liberal media, the cynical politicos, and the left wing. And I believe that it was incumbent upon me, asked by several people to write the book, to tell the truth, to let America know just exactly where we're headed and where our country is going if we don't step up and do something. So I believe that you will find it easy reading, but I think it does tell the story not only of Arizona and not only of Alabama, but all of America. And I believe, and I will tell you, that Americans are rightfully fed up with the broken promises and the failures that plague President Obama and his entire administration. With all these broken promises President Obama keeps peddling, it kind of reminds me of those times when you go into a restaurant in a store and they try to sell you that tasty little dessert. You all know they promise you it's going to be so good, you just can't resist it. So you go ahead and you buy it. And you think, okay, this is the good thing coming up. Then they bring you this great dessert, right? And it isn't anything like what they promised you. It's just yuck. It's just awful tasting and a complete disappointment. Obama's promises are kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, we all know, we've been promised things before. He comes forward and he promises everything, he does nothing, and he blames somebody else for it. And now, President Obama is up on Capitol Hill, and he's peddling his latest promised dessert, and he calls it, what? The Jobs Bill. But you know what, Mr. President, I like talking to him. You know what, Mr. President? I just don't think anyone's going to buy this ketchup popsicle you call the Jobs Bill. Not even your own party. I think that all of us this time will just say no thanks, and we'll just save our hard-earned money. And in the next year's elections, Americans will make it a choice about what's right and about what's wrong. And here's what I believe. Wrong is more federal regulation that destroys jobs. Wrong is our federal government shipping guns into Mexico in the Fast and Furious operation, and no one high up is held accountable. Wrong is allowing those guns to be used by the border gangs to shoot a brave and noble Border Patrol agent, Agent Brian Terry. Well, right is calling a terrorist, well, a terrorist. Right is calling a Christmas tree a Christmas tree. And right is not being afraid to salute the flag, wear a flag pin, say the Pledge of Allegiance, or sing the national anthem unashamed with a tear in our eye. Right is not being afraid to say to those who are here illegally, you deserve no favoritism. You deserve no special treatment, no driver's licenses, no special language privileges, no jobs ahead of the unemployed Americans. Obey our laws and get in line the way thousands of others have done, the right way, the legal way. Thank you. Right is looking President Obama square in the eye, as I did in my meeting with him in the White House, and saying, Mr. President, do your job. Secure our border. Sir, that's what you were elected to do, so do it. Right is Governor Robert Bentley and courageous Federal District Court Judge Sharon Blackburn, allowing police officers to do their job, making reasonable attempts to check the immigration status during a lawful stop when practical, and there is a reasonable suspicion that the individual is an illegal alien. Right is saying that, and so much more. We are all our mother's daughters. We're all Republican. We're women Republicans. We speak our minds. We mean what we say. We love our country, and we make no apology for that. During the election of 1860, Abraham Lincoln wrote a letter to a friend and said, and I quote, "I know there is a God and that he hates injustice. I see the storm coming, but if he has a place and a part for me, I believe that I am ready," end of quote. Well, we know there is a God, and the storm is already here. And if he has a place and a part for me and all of you, I believe we are ready. Let there be no doubt, these are difficult days that Providence has set before us. However, because of my mother's example, I do not shrink from them, and neither should you. I do not cower, and neither should you. And after we get the right leadership in Washington, D.C., neither will America. Thank you, and may God bless you and your families, and may God bless Alabama, and may God always bless and protect the United States of America.
I don't have $1 gajillion. I don't have a machine to raise the kind of money that my opponents are raising. And the other ding against me by some of the political experts, he has never held public office before in his life. You see, back in that debate that we did a couple of debates ago, I've done so many, I'm losing track of how many debates we're doing. It was Senator Santorum, when I first started talking about 999. Senator Santorum said, "But Herman's plan can't pass. Herman's plan can't pass." And I said, therein lies the difference, Senator. You see, politicians propose stuff that they think they can pass. Businessmen propose stuff that will solve the problem. That's why we need a business person in the White House. So stay inspired. I often have people, how do you do it? We did over 12 events in the last 2 days. Is it physically grueling? Yes. Is it physically and emotionally demanding? Yes. But you see, my inspiration started 12 years ago when my first grandchild was born. I didn't know the significance of that at that time, because when I first looked in the face of this little baby that was only about 15 minutes old, when I first looked in that face, the first thought that went through my mind, so help me God, was what do I do to make this a better nation and a better world? I didn't know the answer then. I just knew that God had another plan for me that I didn't know about yet. And then in 2006, God rocked my world. I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I had a crisis in my life. And when I asked the surgeon, well, what does stage 4 cancer mean? I didn't know much about it. The surgeon said, that's as bad as it gets. I said, being a mathematician, can you quantify that for me? And the surgeon said, you have a 30% chance of survival and a 70% chance that you won't make it. And I said, Doc, I know which group I'm going to be in. I'm going to be in the 30% group. And my surgeon said to me, and this is a direct quote, if more people had your attitude, I could save more lives. I had to go through chemotherapy, double surgery, with some removal of my colon and my liver, recuperation, then more chemotherapy over a 9-month period. That was 5 years ago, and I am now totally cancer-free by the grace of God. And because I've been a man of faith all my life since the age of 10, I took that experience as a message from God who said, not yet. I could have been gone. But he said, not yet. Then I had to pray and pray and pray and figure out why am I still here. And I thought about looking in that little baby's face. And I thought about all of those other little faces. And when I was growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, my mother was a domestic worker. My father, a barber, a janitor, and a chauffeur. Because you see, Dad worked 3 jobs until he could make it off 2. And he worked 2 jobs until he could make it off 1. When he got that big promotion as the chauffeur and personal valet for the chairman and CEO of the Coca-Cola company, Dad could make it off of 1 job in order to be able to achieve his American dreams. Came from a very humble family. I didn't grow up thinking I want to be president one day. No. My American dream was, I want to make me some money. I was broke. And God has blessed me with a successful business career. Not a bajillionaire, but we're comfortable. And I was on my way to cruise control with my wife for 43 years. On the way to cruise control, moving back to Atlanta where we both grew up. Our son and our daughter, they both decided to settle there. We got 3 grandkids. I was going to play golf 3 times a week, serve on corporate boards, write some more books, give some more speeches. Then a strange thing happened on the way to cruise control. The nation got off track. It wasn't until President Barack Obama took office that I seriously started to consider running for president. When I watched the weakening of America, the economy, because of failed economic policies, has gotten weaker. Our military has gotten weaker. Our respect in the world has gone down. And because I was a radio talk show host, I had to stay on top of all of the issues every day. But in addition to staying on top of the issues and the problems, I was listening to listeners, patriots and citizens, asking, why don't we do this that makes sense? Why don't we do this that makes sense?